Weezy out of here. Weezy out of here.
All right, so I just got back to China. It's probably been maybe a year since I've been here, but I needed to come for maybe a week, two, just to kind of get some things in order, make sure everybody's rolling in the same direction, have some new systems in place for when new people come in. And yeah, so I'm here at the office on Sunday just to kind of make sure that I'm ahead of my schedule for the week. I have my notes ready, and yeah, I'm just prepared for whenever these conversations happen. I know what's going on, and I know how to move things forward. But I want to pick up the camera for a second because I just had a really interesting conversation. So a friend just called me not too long ago. His business is doing well, numbers looking very good, and his team is also looking pretty solid. But he wants to pivot, and he's very worried about what will happen if he pivots. So he called me up. He was like, bro, I want to pivot. I want to go in this new direction. So we start talking about the ideas, his new offer, his new type of client, and how he wants his days to look because of where he wants to go. And this is pretty normal because, like, I feel like as you grow as an entrepreneur or as you grow as a person, like, you ultimately change. Like, you don't want to do the same thing that you used to do. But pivoting is a tough thing because of our limiting beliefs. So when we were having this conversation, I was listening to the language he was using because language is important. And he was adding a lot of conditions on top of his offer and his pivot. So he would say things like, once I have more time, once the team is bigger, once the offer is perfect, and all these things that we go through, right? But mind you, the business is already winning, but his brain is still wanting this perfect scenario before he moves forward. So I told him about this simple idea I learned a while back called be, do, have. And as humans, we are conditioned and wired to think oppositely. So we think once I have more time, then I'll do the thing, then I will be that kind of person. For example, once I have more money, I'll invest, then I'll be an investor. Or in his case, once I have the perfect plan, then I'll pivot, then I will be the person that I want to be. Right? And I told him that order keeps you stuck because life rarely gives you a clean setup, the perfect scenario. Be, do, have. Remember that. First, you decide who you want to be. Then you do what that person would do. And then over time, you have what that person tends to have. So basically, I had to role play with him. I was like, forget the perfect conditions for a second. If you were already that version of you who made this pivot work, how would you move this week with what you have right now? And once we framed it like that, the answers were really simple. He was like, okay, I'm going to talk to 5 of my best clients. He said, I can test a new version of this offer without rebuilding the whole business. I said, okay, cool. And then he was like, I also have time over here that I could be using for this offer instead. So let me just block that out of my calendar, and then let me just focus on that for a few hours a day. And I was like, okay, do you understand how it's the same business, same team, same bank account? It's just a different identity running the decisions. And that really is an important shift because what happens is you stop waiting to feel like the person that does whatever thing you want to do, right? You have already chosen that identity in your head, and now you are just providing the proof through your daily actions. And then if you're providing that proof through your daily actions, the results are going to show up later. You don't know when, but you know it's going to come because you have the proof. So here's the biggest question to ask yourself. Who do I need to be now? And what does this person need to do this week with what they already have? All right, nice day in China. I am feeling a bit better, so I'm trying to pick up the camera more. Well, I won't blame my not feeling well on not vlogging. I would say it's more of a friction thing. Like when I'm locked in,
especially when it comes to work, the last thing I think about is recording and picking up a camera. And that kind of made me start thinking about the whole idea of friction. And I was thinking about it because, we're building this platform for creative spaces. And the thing I was thinking about is picking up my camera, and I've invested a lot of money in that camera and that lens, and that whole setup is a lot of friction because I'm not able to just, let's say, for example, walk down the street with my bag while I'm on the way to go get some coffee. This DJI Osmo is a bit easier. And as a creative, it might not be the look that I want, but it's one of those where done is better than perfect. And I remove that barrier, that friction. So when I was thinking about this week, as I've been working on this platform and trying to get hosts onboarded, I'm thinking about how do we remove as much friction as possible. But first, let me get a coffee because I'm still waking up. Spanish? No, sorry, caramel latte. Yes, iced. All right, so I honestly don't know what I just ordered or what this is, but I'm gonna try it out anyway. It looks like a toast. She said it was sweet, so I don't know what that says in Mandarin, but that's it. All right, yeah, so back to friction. So when you think about friction with anything, I think the goal is always to remove as much friction as possible with anything you do. Because if you want to, let's say you want to lose weight, the easiest thing to say is to go to the gym, but that is not as easy as making it hard to eat the same foods or eating the same sweets that you typically get. It could be as simple as throwing out all the things that are unhealthy in your fridge or in your pantry. Let me move because I want this sunlight, but I'm fighting it right now. So it could be as simple as throwing out all the garbage that you have, right? And when it comes to this platform, what the conversation I've been having with hosts so far, I want to make it as easy as possible for them to commit, right? So it's not really like a huge shisha. My coffee just came in. Gonna see how it is. I feel like one of those food vloggers right now. But, right, so for the host on a platform is very important because the supply basically drives the demand. So right now, the supply side is the host, of course. So if we can focus on getting the most exceptional hosts and the most exceptional spaces on a platform, then that only drives the demand for our platform. So the biggest thing in UAE is it's tough to get a nice creative space without having to go through all these hassles and jumping through all these hurdles. Now, there's a lot of friction when it comes to booking a space or booking a creative space for a product, a brand shoot, anything like that. If you don't already know these spaces or these people, it's not something where you just go online and you book. At least not with my experience from America and working with brands there. There's a lot of friction, I keep saying friction, around just being able to book a space that you can use at any time, right? So going back to the platform itself is going to remove these barriers. My goal is to be able to get them to see the value in the platform without pitching. So how can I make this more so a no-brainer for them when we are having these conversations? And so far, the conversations I've been getting have been really good. It's a lot of interest. So one of my goals is to, like I said, remove friction. So what is one of the ways that I can remove friction by that? I can show them other spaces who will have joined on. I can mainly onboard them and kind of reduce the risk for them. So my main goal right now, my main goal next week when I get back to Dubai is going to be actually going to go see these spaces, these hosts in person, showing them the platform, sitting down with them, showing them how easy it is to set up. I set it up for them. Go through the terms of service and all those things, and take pictures of their space. Basically, I want to walk through the whole setup because then I get to get feedback on how the process is to sign up, but also it's more so like a white glove, hands-on experience. And these are the type of things you have to do when you're starting up, you have to put in way more effort to get your first people on. After that, it kind of becomes like a snowball effect. So yeah, when it comes to friction, there's a lot of different ways that I can remove friction, but I'm not trying to do all of them at once. I'm trying to see what works and trying to build on. There was something that Brian Chesky was talking about the early days of Airbnb.
I think the second thing was Paul Graham gave us a series of advice that probably changed our business forever. Probably the most important single piece of advice I got, which is probably advice that is probably the most important advice I can give you, or one of the most important advice, is he basically drew out this chart. And he basically said, it's better to have 100 people that love you, 100 customers that love you, than 1,000,000 customers that just sort of like you. In other words, if you have 100 people that absolutely love your product, they'll tell 100 people, and then they'll tell 100 people, or even 10 people, and this thing will grow. We call it growing virally. In fact, almost all movements in history have grown this way as well. There's like deeply passionate followers, and they grow it, and they're customer advocates. And the problem is in Silicon Valley, the general wisdom is, I need to build some app, this thing, and needs to have this viral coefficient. I need to get millions of people to use it, and they got to like it enough to share it. And that's totally the wrong way to think about it, especially if you're in a service business like ours. So Paul Graham said, all you have to do is get 100 people like you. Don't worry about millions of people. That was totally freeing. Because until then, I'm like, how the hell am I going to get 1,000,000 people to do this if I can't even get my mom or my sister to do it? But I can find 100 people. And so we literally decided, do things that don't scale. If all you need to do is get 100 people to love you, do things that don't scale. It turns out 100 people that love you is really hard because it's easy 100 people to like you. 100 people to love you means you need to meet them. You need to understand their problem. And so we literally would fly during Y Combinator from Mountain View. We commuted from Mountain View to New York. We would go, Joe and I would go to New York, and we'd go door to door because New York was where most of our community was. We would meet with every one of our hosts. And we'd live with them. We literally would live with them. We'd write the first reviews for the places. And in fact, I would go there and I'd be like, wow, the photos are terrible. This is actually a really nice house. And the host was like, well, I can't figure out how to get photos onto my computer. This is before really the iPhone and high quality camera. This is like people had to plug a camera into their laptop. And so he thought, what if you just clicked a button and a photographer next day would magically show up and photograph your home? And he thought that'd be amazing. And so I went home with Joe and we borrowed a camera from one of our friends in Brooklyn, who was a photographer. And we knocked on the door. And they're like, hello, yes, I'm here, the photographer. And they're like, wow, this is a small company. The founder's also photographing my home. I used to also carry a bank ledger in my backpack, and if you need to get paid, I'll just like rip out the check and I'd knock on your door and hand you a check. So that was also a reminder of how small we were. But the point was that doing things that don't scale, if you just think about building something that even just one person loves, it's super easy to create something a single person loves, especially if it's a service. And then you go like person by person. Once you have 100 people, then you just focus on figuring out how to scale that. And it's a totally different intellectual problem to scale something 100 people love and figure out what that is. And that was a turning point for us.
The full video is actually a really good video. I'm going to drop the link in the description below in case you want to watch it. Appreciate you for tuning in. This, for me, so far has been like getting the repetitions back in. This has not been something that has been natural to me for a long while, but I'm putting my shots up. I appreciate you for making it this far. Drop a comment below. Let me know what you think. And also drop anything you want to learn, anything that I can put in the video that has more value, or just any thoughts that you might have, any questions, comments, whatever. Just drop it down below and I'll see you in the next one.